Thank you everyone for coming. As Dr. Yelena mentioned, my name is Fahad. I'm really delighted to be here with my amazing friends that actually, I was really delighted to see that you guys arrived in Doha. I was at the same plane, so welcome. For the introduction, I would like to mention that actually we are in the National Museum of Qatar, which is like where kind of like where history and national pride meet innovation storytelling. So today's panel will be talking about Villa Noailles Creative Residency as a bridge between heritage and innovation. In this session, we're going to bridge, it's kind of like it's a bridge by itself to connect Villa to Doha, legacy, experimentation, architecture, and storytelling. I would say for the last 25 years, Qatar has been building its own infrastructure in terms of culture and creativity through hosting our stories through the museum, which I call it the, I would say, humanity knowledge shelter. And then the creative incubators were actually making sure our narrative is keep producing, and we have it, I would say, as a legacy for Qatar to go. Which actually, this is linked me to our panel discussion today, which actually were, I would say, it feels kind of like natural relationship between what's happening globally and how it's connected locally as well. So let's introduce the panelists. Basically, Jean-Pierre, he's the director of Villa Noailles. He's the founder and director of the International Festival of Fashion and Photography, and the visionary behind the transformation of Villa to become a leading platform for emerging talent in fashion, photography, design, and architecture. And Aline Asmar, she's an architect herself, and she's an interior designer and founder of the Culture and Architecture, a design studio based in Beirut and Paris, and she's committed of bridging culture while balancing between the past and the present. So thank you so much for joining us today. I would like us to talk more about in this panel about legacy and transformation. Because Villa, as you know, it's a house of the past and the future. So I would like to start with John, if you don't mind, to ask you this question. Villa has such a layered identity, historical momentum, avant-garde center, and nurturing space for creative. Can you walk us through the evolution from 1920s roots to what is represented today?
First of all, thank you so much to invite me. It's my first time in Qatar. It's a pleasure to be here in this amazing building. I would like to thank all the Qatar Creates for all the organization, and especially the Sheikha Al Mayasa to organize everything and invite me and us today. I'm the director of a very specific building in south of France called Villa Noailles. The name at the beginning is Clos Saint-Bernard. Charles and Marie-Laure de Noailles, who are very important patron of art, maybe one of the most patron of art, the most important patron of art for the 20th century. They decide to build one of the first cubist house in the south of France, and in Europe, we say Villa Noailles, it is the first cubist house in Europe. And in this very big cubist castle, you could have a picture of Man Ray here just behind me. They decide to invite all the most important artists of the 20th century. They began to commission Man Ray to do a film. We could have a documentary of the villa. That's completely crazy to imagine that Man Ray, for his first film, come in south of France in this very really small village to do this documentary. And with Man Ray, also Charles and Marie-Laure de Noailles commissioned maybe the most important artist of the 20th century for his house in here. Alberto Giacometti, Salvador Dali, Jean Cocteau, the musician Francis Poulenc, and during all the moments they live in here, they commission the most interesting and young artists. Because it's really impressive to make this list with very big name, But when Charles and Marie-Laure de Noailles decide to work with Man Ray, Dali, Alberto Giacometti, there was 20. They are really at the beginning of the things. And that's incredible to imagine the vision of these people. And it's interesting, especially this year, because we are going to celebrate the 1 century art decorative exhibition in this summer, in 2025. And Charles and Marie-Laure de Noailles met a lot of artists during this exhibition. 1 cycle passed. And Charles and Marie-Laure de Noailles died during the 70s. And after that, the town decided to build a art center in this place. You could just look at the Man Ray film for 2 minutes, maybe. If you would like to see, it's really easy to have it on YouTube. It's Man Ray, les mystères du château de Dé. It's really easy to find. And when Marie-Laure de Noailles died in the 70s, the town decided to rebuild the building. And it's a long time ago. I arrived there. It was in 1989, precisely. And I decided to found a fashion and photography and accessories festival there. We are going to celebrate the 40th anniversary this year. And of course, it's interesting to imagine that in a way, because it is not a real choice, we have decided to support only young talents in our organization for fashion, for design, for interior architecture, for accessories, for photography. And it is exactly the same way that Charles and Marie-Laure de Noailles have decided 1 cycle before. We have some images here about exhibition we have organized during the fashion festival with Chanel. Here we are exhibition of design and interior architecture. And what is interesting to imagine also, it was a house for holidays before, and now it's a house for artists. And of course, in a way, there is a bridge between these 2 houses. This private house 50 years ago, and now this public house at the moment.
It's interesting because if you think about it, for Europe, like 20 years of legacy, it's not that far. But for us here, in terms of establishing cultural institutions and incubation, it's actually a similar, I would say, age. Which lead me to my second question to you. You have lived you have led Villa for over 30 years. How was your personal philosophy shaped the institution journey?
We spoke this morning before, and after that, it's always difficult to reintroduce at the same way. I came from nowhere. I do not do any school. I have no cultural information before working in this place. Comment est-ce qu'on dit en français? Je suis un autodidacte. Self-made man, all by myself, say very famous singers. And I was born in a restaurant. And when many years after people told me how you manage your life in Villa Noailles, it began really clear that all the things my parents learned to me in the restaurant, I do the same way in the art center. It's really a pleasure to welcome artists. It's really a pleasure to bring a lot of importance to details. It's very important to have always flower everywhere. And what we have built in the Villa Noailles, I hope it's an artist family. And maybe 40 years after, one of the main things for me, it's all the artists, most of the artists we have worked with during these 40 years are becoming friends or more than that. And maybe that's the best way to live every day, to take care of people, to pay attention to people, to bring them a chance. And I don't know if it's a good way, but that's the way we have chosen with the team at the Villa Noailles to make all the artists and the public like at home.
I love that because institutions is four walls. Like I think the way you translate it, I would say your core value, your ethos in those four walls, and you really made sure it translated through the exhibitions and the creative you're nurturing to Aline. So as someone who practiced deeply in the intertwines with cultural narrative and architectural memory, what struck you the most at the first time when you visited Villa?
Yes, I'm really happy to be here today and to listen again to Jean-Pierre's stories. It's wonderful to be in this great building, great architecture by Jean Nouvel. We were talking about this with you, Fahad, earlier. I came to Villa Noailles, like many things in my career as an architect, through my privileged relationship, let's say, with Mr. Karl Lagerfeld, whom I was very lucky to collaborate with. And I discovered Villa Noailles through the photography and the lens of Karl Lagerfeld. He photographed this beautiful building that's now 102 years old, right? Robert Mallet-Stevens in the 90s, 1995. And I would always look out for, you know, what Karl Lagerfeld is doing in photography, in design, in fashion, of course. And then I fell in love with this building, the brutalism and the modernity of the building. But I would start also by saying that legacy, as you were asking and as you were mentioning now, and architecture is such a powerful tool. And Karl quoted this very well by saying that there are some buildings in the world that do have a kind of mystery, and you cannot crack down the mystery. And I think Villa Noailles is part of these beautiful buildings that have its own aura, magnetic aura, that attracts the entire world. It attracts such powerful names in the fashion industry, in the design industry, in the accessories, immense groups, luxury groups, but also the youngest emerging talents and youth. And I think architecture has also this power to be magnetic, to be a very strong, force that could gather. And I think gathering together in Villa Noailles with Jean-Pierre, and this is how we met when I was called by Pascal Mussard. Actually, a big thought to Pascal Mussard, who's the president of Villa Noailles, who should have been with us today, but unfortunately could not attend. So Jean-Pierre and Pascal were driving in the car. They called me and they said, we would like to propose for you to become the president of the jury of the next edition. And that was in 2022, which is wonderful. I say hi to tribute to India, who was the first, India Madhavi, who's with us here, and who was the first president of the jury of the Interior Design Festival. The Interior Design Festival is much younger. We are much younger than the Fashion Festival. Fashion Festival is 40 years old this year. Interior Design Festival is 9 this year. I was for the 7th. 7 is a lucky number. It's fantastic, and it's really great to know that the Villa does bridge fashion, interior design, accessories, photography as well. Yesterday we were witnessing Taswir, your program of photography. So there are so many common links between what is happening in Doha at this moment, the youth and the energy that we can so tangibly see, the cultural relevance. I really feel when I come to Doha that there is a very strong cultural authenticity, but also a very important foot in the future while respecting the heritage. And these are really the core values that animate me as an architect. I called my company Culture and Architecture because I do really feel that these words resonate and that these words speak to everyone in every language, everywhere in the world. I'm Lebanese born, and books have saved me. When I was a child, I would open a book under the table and feel that there was a whole new world far from the adversity and the chaos of war. And it is through books that I met Karl Lagerfeld. It is through books that I met Jean-Pierre as well. We have this very strong emotional Jean-Pierre and Pascal connection to books. So culture is really rooted, very deeply rooted in Doha, and really drives my work as an architect every day. So I'm happy to be here and
yeah, I'm
to
glad
talk
actually you
about
had the Taste of Tasweer Festival, and I like invite everyone here to check their program. It's very, I would say, youth-driven in terms of narrative, and I felt like it's kind of resonating with everyone. When I say youth, that I don't mean age. I turned 40, so I would like to include myself.
We can be very young at 80, and we know many people who are very young at 80 and very old at 20.
Exactly.
So, yes.
And like, as you mentioned, like, I think it's very important to mention in terms of like a philosophy or a strategy in terms of like establishment. You have the museum field where it's a housing, I would say the, as I mentioned, like the human knowledge shelter, but in the same time, you need to make sure how to build narrative through those creative incubators and have almost like an open dialogue. And I think that kind of takes me to the next question for you. How do you see a dialogue between history and modernity playing out in your own work? And like a space like Villa, like, you know, like how that actually contributes to your creative production or creative evolution?
I think that a space like Villa Noailles, as we were saying, attracts really youth and talent, and also the biggest name. I think that both feed each other very well. It's a space of creativity and freedom, and we know how much this is valuable. I think that through design tells stories. You know, design is a wonderful tool for telling stories, for bridging past and future. It's extremely interesting, and that's a sentence from Goethe, who says, you must know, you must look at the past to invent your future. So it's very, very interesting to think about that. I love the idea also that we're facing the sea here in Doha. We were facing the sea in Villa Noailles. And this basin, this cultural basin, the waves, the sound, the elements, it's also an open door to the world. And you always, feel that going further is also bringing you back to where you are. I feel Lebanese, but I'm also very Parisian. I spent the last 25 years in Paris. When I come to Doha, I love to practice my Arabic again. These genes, they never leave you. To quote another sentence, beautiful sentence by Adonis, a Syrian poet, he says, my body is my country, and waves are our identity. So, these waves take you back and forth. It's really beautiful. And I think the fact that, there's this openness, the fact that we can be proud of our culture, but not prisoner of the culture. It's very important to use this as a great asset, to be proud of it, but to reinvent it. And not to copy the past, because then that becomes really pastiche. And when you look at all these beautiful, installations at the Villa Noailles, there's always something deeply rooted in that culture of openness, but something very modern and very contemporary. We have to be true to our times, and that's also the power of art. Art teaches us so much, and we're here, again, in a museum, so we know about the force of art. So artistry and the legacy of the past, I think, for me, passes through this hand gesture. But the hand gesture is young. The hand gesture is really something that can teach us about the future, but that knows something from the past with its own genes.
I love that, because like when you have kind of like multidisciplinary approach to incubators, spaces, innovation, like I think it allows you to tell your story in different mediums, different audience, and different depth. That actually will lead me to the second topic we talked about it this morning. I'm so excited about designing platforms for talent and freedom and innovation. To you, like I would say, Villa today is a platform for fashion, photography, design, dance, live performance. Why is this multidisciplinary approach essential for nurturing to nurture creative, from your opinion?
First of all, before to answer your question, if it's okay, Fahad, I would like to say culture, it's impossible to put it in a box. It's impossible to make marketing with culture. For me, it's my opinion. I hate marketing in general. I hate marketing in fashion. I hate marketing in design. I hate marketing in interior architecture. And I hate marketing. And it's impossible to make a plan, any plan in culture. We have to live with culture, with the heart, with a trip, and that's the most important things. And Charles and Marie-Laure de Noailles, for the heritage, do not imagine that there is any difference between Christian Dior, Jean-Michel Franck, Francis Poulenc, Alberto Giacometti, or Picasso. Zero. It's because at this moment they decide to give money to a lot of money to all these artists with commission. At this moment, they are not Ministry of Culture in France, and in a way, they are the Ministry of Culture. We could talk about the patron of art who was Charles and Marie-Laure de Noailles, and what the all amazing things they do. But to answer your question more precisely, why we develop a multidisciplinary program in Villa Noailles? Because the artists who came in the Villa Noailles became friends for life. And when a dancer came working with a fashion designer, they continue after the Villa Noailles. 15 days ago, we have a partnership with Théâtre National de Chaillot, and Chaillot invite two young choreographers, Nicolas Huchard and Anna Kiriscu and Gabriel Schaller. And we invite two young fashion designers, and I'm sure that they are going to work together all life. And that's this energy very important to have in mind, to mix photography, fashion, dance, music, all time together.
I love how the diversity of your audience, I would say, like it's kind of allow this, removing this border in terms of personality, patronage, and like young designers, or young creative, I would say, and under one platform. But I would like to ask you another question, if you don't mind. The values of freedom, youth, sharing, and craft. To be kind of, it's almost like it's in the heart of Villa in terms of a strategy. How do you sustain those ideals across all festivals and residency? This is something I find it very interesting in you. Like it always, whatever you touch, those values are always there. How you kind of like, I would say, garden or like make sure those philosophies applied throughout those platforms? Is it programming? Is it because of the people you select?
That's the heart of the villa, and maybe it is not the most easy to explain with words. I coming back to the idea of the family. When we apply in a way for a residency, they are not a dossier to make. We are not a fight to do an internet program, or I don't know. You call the villa and you say, I would like to make a new album in music. There is some bedroom available, please. And we say, yes, how many times we would like to came? And that's really the beginning. It's the most of the time possible. Not X-file culture organization. It's really found really on the heart and the hospitality. And I think we do everything for sponsorship, for program, for welcoming, for hospitality, with the same spirit. We try to do it. But again, we have not chosen at the beginning to say, oh, we are going to develop a art center like a house. It came with time, you know, and it's because we receive a lot of asking for young artists since 40 years that we feel that we are in a good road with them.
That actually leads me to a question to both of you. Like, feel free, whoever want to answer that. Like, residency is not just a space that actually an artist come and occupy and develop their ideas. It's kind of almost like it's a mindset within a space. What do you think make residency truly transformative for young creative? Like, what do you think unique about it?
It depends what you could bring to the artist, really. In the Villa Noailles, it's really cheap. We are a big international image. But when we arrive really in the place, we do not have any machine. We have just maybe our most big treasure. It's hospitality and spirit and feeling. But each time when artists leave the villa, they dream to coming back. And maybe there are something special, but you know, it's difficult for me because I'm the director of the place to feel really what sort of magical things we have. But I think it's a good combination, like here, of Mediterranean landscape with Mediterranean hospitality, with a art museum, historical monument, because you could sleep in the Villa Noailles and work in this amazing building of Robert Mallet-Stevens. And I think the spirit of Charles and Marie-Laure de Noailles was always there also. And all these things make a special round for people to develop a project.
I would add on what Jean-Pierre is saying. I love the word hospitality. It is really something. I'm very lucky to work on many projects, many hotel projects in the world. I must say that even when you work in luxury with the biggest brands, you come back to Villa Noailles, there's something extremely simple, extremely raw, but that really touches your heart. I think that this residency is a mix of togetherness and creativity, but also a quest for beauty. And you can seek beauty with very simple things. I think about the flower arrangements of the Beaulieu, for example, of Pierre Bonchereau. Every flower is tinted, you know, the petals are mesmerizing. You look at the flower and then, you know, you have a zillion ideas that you want to come back to your desk and develop something. And you look at the building, there's something magical, again, about the natural elements being together. This house that's always been a home. You know, it's not a museum. And I think in hospitality, we always look out to this feeling of coming back to a home, but a home that makes you travel. And that's something very powerful about Villa Noailles. And Villa Noailles is not only contained in the Mallet-Stevens building. I was looking for an image actually before, just to show you that this is part of Villa Noailles. This is the old évêché of Toulon. So the Interior Design Festival happens in this building. That is not the Mallet-Stevens building, but the spirit of the Noailles dominates, and it's everywhere. So it's that cultural freedom, and it's, you know, the buzz sitting in a garden and just having very simple tools to discuss. So you really connect genuinely with people. And I think the secret of a true residency is the genuine connections and the spirit of a hospitality that you cannot find anywhere else, and that really makes a home.
And maybe I could just add something, because we spoke about residency, but our specificity too, when we organize the fashion and the design and interior architecture festival, we provide maybe one of the most important prizes in the world for young people just after school. Because we work with fashion designer, interior architecture and designer just after school. That's a very key moment in the artist career, because when you are at school, you got all the things of the school, the machinery, everything, the atelier, the workshop, everything. When you finish school in France, at the moment it's going to make these things better, but that's nothing possible. No more workshop, no more machinery.
And the mentorship.
Yeah, everything stop. And the forces of our festival is to bring them prices very connected to the luxury world. When you won the main prices of the fashion festival, you could go and work during 1 year residency at Chanel Craft Spot, le 19e. When you won the design parade for objects, you could work during 1 year in Manufacture Nationale de Sèvres for ceramics. You could one year with CIRVA, it's a research center about glass in Marseille. And when you won the prices of interior architecture, you could work with Mobilier National during 1 year, or you could also work with Chanel for the visual merchandising prices. And one thing's very important also, we bring prices to young people, and they coming back 1 year after to present the results of the residency of 1 year, and sometimes they coming back during 2 or 3 years. It is not just communication. We bring you a prize, we make a picture, and bye-bye. You try to manage to organize the good things for them during a long period. And that's maybe the most, without a lot of big budgets, without really a very big budget. But we try to manage during the long time the support of the young people.
So basically, I would say, I will position you as an enabler rather than just like pushing an agenda or you have your own narrative about the outcome. You just provide the space, and then through the enabling or connection you're building with talent and industry, you let it grow organically. And this is, I think, what M7 and Liwan and Qatar, they're doing when they are kind of like, even if you go to the space, it's a huge building, but there's no like you need to ticket or you need to make an appointment or anything. The space by itself, it's actually set as inspiration, and it's divided and designed in a way like if you want to go to be inspired through the exhibition, you can go there. If you have any questions about how to build a business, there is an open office there you can just walk to and just talk to them. So I love that idea. It's like institutions, they are enabler rather than kind of have an agenda for whatever national agenda that they have.
That's very important.
Absolutely, and I think what you're both saying, and this is very interesting at Villa Noailles as well, and in the Interior Design Festival at Toulon, is that people come back. You don't just show up one time, you win a prize, and then you leave. Like Jean-Pierre is explaining about the process. When you win a prize in the interior design and you make a residency or you make a project with Mobilier National, the next year you are the exhibitor and you are on the jury. So, you know, you get, as a president of the jury, you get in your jury immediately the former winner, right, of the year before. So people get this kind of exposure, but also the maturity and also the real exchange. And it's an ongoing process. And of course, it does create a family. It does create, you know, a group of people who never leave each other later on. So this is the power of a residency. This is the power of connecting cultures through, you know, a program. And it's not just to just deliver a prize or to be here for one event.
Amazing, because recently I'm doing research about the creative economy justification, and basically I'm finding very interesting how the creative shifting away from institutions point of view and go into communal spaces, like the one in Istanbul, like with Atelier. It's an open space, you can come, you can engage with the creatives and stuff like that. So it feels more organic, I would say, and I think following Her Excellency, vision, she really believed in the community power, and that is, I think, what she's doing. But kind of like take me to the next point, which is talking about the design patronage and a global collaboration institution. network and the role of cultural leadership, even if we would not put ourselves in the like cultural leadership, but by default will happen. Like in Villa, to support, it's supported by cultural institutions and global brands like Chanel, Hermès, Van Cleef. How you have cultivated such a powerful ecosystem to follow your vision?
It's a very interesting question. Thank you so much, Fahad. We've got in the Villa Noailles two angels like a president. The first one was Didier Grumbach, who was at the same time president de la Fédération de la Mode in Paris. We began with him to found private. And after we've got a second angel president, the actual president, Pascal Mussard, who spoke Aline before. And with these two angels, we work with a very amazing guy too, Benjamin Saulnier, who is in the room at the moment. We work since 20 years together. And it is connected to what I'm saying before. It is not a marketing plan. We have a real conversation and a real history with the brand we work with. We became friends in a way. They sponsor the festival because they love them most of the time. Of course, in the big list, because we receive something like 2.5 million of euros each year from private fund. But each time it's a very specific history. With Chanel, which is a main sponsor of the Villa, we spoke about history, we spoke about fashion, we spoke about visual merchandising, we exchanged about the history of Marie-Laure de Noailles and Chanel. With Hermès, it's very specific history too, because we develop a program with children. We spoke yesterday about an amazing program at Hermès Foundation called Manufacto around the craft things. We are going to develop next year around the garden a specific program with Hermès called Manutera, and which each sponsor, there is behind that an history. And with the public institution, it's quite the same. Maybe sometime for people it's a problem, but Villa Noailles became without nothing. We began with zero budget 40 years ago, and we began with 3 people, and now we've got 6 million of budget, and we are 30 people. And when we began with 0 people, you learn very quick, and you learn a lot. And maybe that's a specific history, not possible to put in other place, but it's our history. And we have developed everything since 40 years now with this, I don't know the word in English, with this special recette. It's our asset. Yeah.
No, I love it because I think like what's working right now is entrepreneurial vibe. You know, like people need to adopt to this creative versus business. And in Design Doha, just to share with you, like we were 5 people and we were in the same situation with you, but that allowed us to think outside of the box and push ourselves. And people believed in the mission because we were hungry to do it, you know? But when you become bigger, this is where actually people say like, oh, now you can afford to cover your own expense. But that takes me actually back to the cultural patronage. What mean to both of you? What does this word mean to both of you in terms of like nurturing creativity and the creative industry?
I think it's a beautiful, combination of word, cultural patronage. And I'm looking at these images here, and I'm seeing something made in the atelier of Chanel at the 19e, the craftsmanship that we have transformed into a material of interior design, using also another gesture and another craft. But all of this happened thanks to the patronage. So what is real luxury? Luxury is creativity. Why do all the patrons come to Villa Noailles and want to support the Interior Design Festival or the Fashion Festival, because they really find an interest into the emerging talents, into the creativity, into the youth, and the connection of, again, you know, established designers or creators with the young talents who are applying for the competition. Let's not forget, it's a competition, after all, of interior design. It's a competition for fashion designers. So there is this hunger, you know, this will to make it. And the big names and the big patrons are really attracted by the purity of this act. So I think that there is a lot of potential into, you know, being extremely small and pure and really reaching out and talking to these biggest names. When I did my show at the occasion of the presidency of the jury for the Villa Noailles, for me it was extremely important to work with the artisans. You know, I go on construction sites everywhere in the world, but that was the most important construction site for me during 2-3 months, where we gathered, you know, with everybody, and I would go and see how the young talents are building also their own spaces. So, as Jean-Pierre was saying, there's something really very improvised, very intuitive. Everybody has a small room, everybody has to create their decor, but they are supported by the biggest companies, by these labels that are Entreprises du Patrimoine Vivant. It's a specific label in France that was given by the Ministry of Culture to support the big, let's say, manufacturers or companies that produce plaster, stone, you know, ouvrage, that produce works in plaster, stone, bronze, wood, etc., to preserve their crafts. And everybody really participates, and everybody really comes and give their support to these young talents and these young hands. So you always have an old hand, a young hand working together, the biggest groups and the patrons, you know, and the younger talents, creatives.
That's very interesting what you mentioned, Aline, thank you. And maybe one of the answers about how it will be possible to get all this good energy from all this big name and this good artisan and craft guy you speak, is because when we decide to make fashion, a fashion festival 40 years ago, nobody was interested by these things. Nobody. And in here also, because it was not in Paris, and fashion in 1986, everybody say it's a bullshit. It is not culture. And it is because we decide to make the older fashion festival in the world, 40 years after, everybody say, oh yeah, we are not alone in this way, of course, but when we decide to work in fashion, we've got interest in return because nothing exists. And when decide with Aline, with India, with André Putman, with Pascal Mussard 10 years ago to do something in interior design, it was the same bullshit for a lot of people in France and in Europe. Nobody was interested in interior architecture, and they spoke about decoration like that, and they are not really interested in. And to make a festival to celebrate, because this is the idea, all the creativity and all the knowledge in these two very important pillar of the country in France, it began very interesting very quickly. In 9 years with the Interior Design Festival, we've got more energy in 9 years than with the fashion one during 40 years. That's crazy.
Hundreds of thousands of visitors. And, you know, it's a festival. So I don't know if it's correct to say it, but I had a lot of friends flying in also from abroad, and they were asking, how is it going to happen? How is it? And I said, you know, it's Coachella, but for the design. So there's really a sense of freedom. People come going out of the pool, going out of the sea. They had just swum. They have just, you know, lived a nice moment by the beach, and then they just walk in. and see the exhibitions. So there's something really rooted into authenticity in a very different way. And everybody is interested into living these authentic experiences today. And this is why the power of the festival is also
But it's very
attractive.
difficult to, I hope I'm going to live in few years, because I'm an old guy at the moment, as you could see. But I hope so that everybody understood that if they close the box, everything are going to stop. If someone decide to close the box, everything are going to stop after 40 years. That completely sure. If you decide to put everything in the good box and everything in a good Excel file fucking dossier, everything stop. It's impossible to do culture, emerging things without freedom, without money, of course, but without freedom. We need freedom in culture. We do not need someone like at school. We are going to explain what you have to do and when you have to do. And I'm completely sure at the moment, if we maybe have something won in here, it's because nobody during 40 years say to us what we have to do. If we began to say to us, to me, what I'm going to do, it's finished. Because I hate school, that I'm saying before, and if I receive a mistress coming to explain to me what I am going to do, everything stop. That's sure. We need freedom in culture and we need freedom in the world. As you know, you spoke about Palestine yesterday. It was a good message. It was beautiful, and that's important to get this freedom to do really creative things everywhere in the world, in here also, but everywhere in the world.
I love that, because I think what I would say package it, it's the consumer, they're mature enough to know what they are engaging with, what they are buying. Consumer in terms of information, experiences, and stuff like that. And I think now they are awake in terms, I think they've always been awake, just like they decided to experience how to engage with the product or experiences in a very meaningful way. I think, I do believe in that. But going back to you, because you led key juries, exhibitions, and curated exhibition dialogues, design dialogues, how do you view your role? I'm very curious about that, as a creator and the enabler. Because you have two hats and you play very well in terms of, because there's a balance between what you give and what you take. Can you take us through that journey? Yes,
of course. And I'm looking at these images and I see beautiful faces full of emotion. And I think that, yes, indeed, it's a real enriching dialogue to participate and to enable others to have their voice and also to create yourself. There's no limit, there's no boundaries. It is the power of collaborations. I think this is really beautiful, because when you participate, when you are presiding at an interior design festival, then you really see emerging talents and you learn from them and you want to work with them and you want to give them a voice, you want to give them a platform. When you see beautiful work of art in a museum and then you think, oh, I'd love to have this as a center point of my project or of my room or of what I'm designing, and then this becomes really the source of your creativity. So there's no boundaries in creativities, and this is very, very important. And you cannot just be an actor yourself in this field, sitting at your desk, creating with your own team, without feeding and being nurtured by others. It's extremely interesting. And Villa Noailles, again, is a great, platform for that. Jean-Pierre was speaking with his heart, but if you look at all these faces here on the screen, whether it is, Rabia Kairouz, part of the jury, whether it is, the young talents who are participating, whether you see here the delicacy of these realizations that were made for the Chanel showcase competition, because there's also an award for the showcase competition, and whoever wins gets to do showcases with Chanel for 1 year. There's always so much emotion and so much, a dialogue. and every face has a story to tell, and that's really beautiful.
I totally agree with you. Look, I came from the fashion industry since 2008, and I jumped by accident to the design industry. It wasn't a plant, and I fell in love with the industry. It's a purpose-driven functionality meet industry. This is the way I viewed it, and this is where there is no down looking at fashion industry. I love the fashion industry. Don't get me wrong. It's just like I felt.
We all love it.
In my
We need it.
in my career, like I felt like it was easier for me. Not easier. Like I would say, I felt like I was looking for more like purpose-driven industry, and I think the design industry found me somehow. And this is how actually I felt like when you were describing that talent, I felt like actually that's authentic. This is how actually how I felt about it. And you are the president of the design parade jury. How you identify excellence as an emerging talent? How you like? What's your criteria or selection criteria? Like from selecting the jury and to the winning, and then how you can program the post legacy of your engagement with the winning designers.
It's a very interesting question because it's very personal. You know, each one of us has their point of view on what really touches you and moves you, but there are common values. And I think it's very important for designers, creators, to have their singular voice. It's very, very important to cultivate this difference, to stay true to your own story, to tell something that really touches others through the power of design and interior design. And I call this the material poetry, you know. I really need to be moved by a story and moved by the purpose of a gesture. So stories are very important, and this gets you back to anchoring the story in a certain idea of narrative, of culture, of heritage, of transformation. You know, heritage is not something that has boundaries either. It is very transformative. It is extremely modern, you know. Sometimes it's just driven by, like you were saying this morning, by purpose and by necessity. So, and how this necessity is elevated in the design, it is elevated to a poetic message. I really believe that as architects, we write with materials like authors write with ink and paper. So if you don't have a story to tell, I'm not interested, but if you have a story to tell, then this kind of competition becomes your great platform. And then you can really collaborate with wonderful artisans because they are really at the service also of such interior design competition. The network of Villa Noailles is so important and so big. When I worked, and I will show a few images of my own show, not to talk about my work because it's not the most interesting thing, but when I got the privilege of doing this show, I knew that Le 19M, the Chanel Métier d'Art, was open doors. I knew that the Entreprises du Patrimoine Vivant, like Atelier de France, were also open to execute in 2 months, in 3 months, something extremely sophisticated, extremely difficult. Here on this wall, and I called it the mirror of culture, I really wanted to convey the idea that from the sea, we can speak so many languages, and we spoke about this morning. And I really wanted to tell the story that even coming to Toulon and coming to Hyères, to the south of France, you must understand that people speak so many languages, and they do speak Arabic. And I chose 10 words from the 10 different languages that are spoken around the Mediterranean basin, because that's the purpose also of Villa Noailles being anchored in this Mediterranean culture. And each word had to say a message, and these words were embroidered by the atelier of Le Sage. Le Sage embroids haute couture for the likes of Schiaparelli, to Dior, to Chanel, to all the fashion industry, to the couture industry. But here we just embroidered papers of an imaginary book that have escaped and flown away in the wind. And the word that I chose in Arabic was tarab. Tarab, because Tarab, I felt that it was easy for every European, Anglo-Saxon person coming here to learn one word in Arabic, and that's not habibi, that's not marhaba, that's not something, your usual word. Tarab is this notion of being drunken and sunken with beauty, right? And elevated through beauty. And I think this is a very beautiful message as well. And to be able to be supported by, such great institutions. Here, for example, behind me, there's a tapestry by Dufy that I was able to borrow for this exhibition from the Mobilier National. And usually these pieces only go to museums, and they are not really available for people to see. But imagine you just have, you know, a nice walk on the beach in the morning as a young designer or, you know, visitor of the south of France, and you walk into this exhibition and you are watching something that is made in the best craftsmanship atelier of the métier d'art of the 19e, and then a piece that goes out from Mobilier National. And that's the power also of such great, you know, collaborations and exceptional collaborations.
I love how you ended it, because like I feel like the world now it's open for collaboration, like everyone talking to everyone for whatever motive they have. But I feel like there's like such a beautiful energy across the globe, and I think through what Her Excellency leading the Year of Culture program that she does every year. This year we have it with Argentina. I think the panel discussion before you had an idea of like what to come for the exhibition. I think it's almost like become an energy, or like I would say openness to learn from each other. And I love what you said about the Arabic word, because a lot of people, like when I was doing Design Doha, I had to travel to so many design platforms, from Miami to Saloni to Musée Objet, and they were asking me, what's the Arabic culture? I said, it's a language. It's a language. And actually, I discovered through those trips, because I was trying to identify what's the Arabic culture, and it is actually what unify us as a nation from like a location point of view or borders. It's actually the language itself. That take me actually to the section where I say, let's talk about the global influence. What lesson can Qatar draw from Villa in building sustainable, globally connected creative platforms? Because I think through Villa, like, you guys did create this energy or openness to collaborate. What Qatar can learn from you guys?
I think all the key we have spoke since the beginning. It's very important to, I think we share the notion of hospitality, of kindness, to bring a lot of different possibility to produce. I think we could follow the same things together to bring artists and to bring young designer the most possibility to produce. It could be one thing you could share between Doha and Villa Noailles.
Yes, I'd like to say that, you know, there's a lot of learnings that we also learn when we come to Qatar. I think Her Excellency's vision is very genuine, it's very pure, and it really touches you deep inside because of the authenticity. It's not just having the means of executing a vision. It is really pouring your heart into the vision. And this is what we feel each time when we come to Doha. I learned so much, you know, I discover great talents like Yasmin that we have now in Paris and who is incredible. I learned from the fashion in Doha. I learned from the design biennale that you have, you know, gathered so well and that you have featured. So it's really cross-fertilizing exercise that's wonderful and very interesting. And we have no advice to give to Doha except just keep going exactly like you are going. And this is the power of a magnetic force that attracts. Look at the Villa Noailles today, traveling from Hyères, you know, south of France, being present here. Yesterday we had our friends from the Mobilier National, you know, and the French Minister of Culture, Rachida Dati, who is here at the same time. This cultural bridge is essential, and it really enriches both cultures.
I'm glad to hear, because I think you will have 3 days, intense 3 days to go.
I will not let him go before he visits everything that I know.
because the things like, I think like you didn't see Lewan, which is a beautiful place that actually school renovated by Aisha Suwaidi. Actually, I'm not sure if she's here, a designer that actually took the responsibility to translate this old school was only for females to become the studio for creative and designers here in Qatar as well. So I really hope like you're gonna like have like a good experience throughout the museum arm and the creative incubator arms. But I would like to end with one word or phrase from both of you. What does creative legacy mean to you? I'm just interested. I'm a philosophy person. I
One
love to
word?
go inside your head and see like what the juice of what the creative legacy mean to you. It could be one word, or you can sing it like up to you.
I would say relevance. Creative legacy is really telling a true story and transforming an idea into something tangible. So I really think that we're all pursuing this. The quest of beauty comes in many, many roads, taking us from our origins. I will end by quoting Lebanese, Franco-Lebanese, let's say, big author, Amin Malouf, in his book called Origins. He says, I chose the word origin and not the word racine, roots, because origins take you everywhere. They are open roads. Roots are for trees. Trees remain in one road. And I think that this creative legacy is really very interesting and is never just an anchor into one place. And just these open roads are a bright future. And this is how I like to see it.
And for me, just one word, generosity and hospitality. I think it's very important.
I feel you're a very human-centric person, which is beautiful because hospitality it's a human-driven.
Yeah, but it is one of the bridge we discussed this morning, because when we arrive here, you feel each moment with hospitality, with beautiful things, and there is really a bridge between Doha and Villa Noailles in a way since really at the beginning, and we share a lot of values around all this beauty. In building, in organization, in exhibition. And I think that's a good beginning to make things together.
Fantastic. Before I end, if anyone would like to have any question. We're out of time? Okay, can we take one question? Because I feel someone wants... Oh. You want to ask? Or okay, I think you scared her. For that note, thank you all for being here, and let's connect building those bridges. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fahad.
Thank you.
Thank you.